The 7-year-old girl's screams tore through Riverside Grill like a siren nobody could silence. Sophie Brennan's body shook with sobs, so violent that crystal glasses rattled on white tablecloths. Her father, tech billionaire Richard Brennan, worth $4 billion, sat frozen across from her, hands hovering uselessly in the air. 30 seconds passed, then 60. The entire restaurant fell silent. Guests stared, whispered, recorded on phones. Richard's security team stood like statues, trained to stop threats, but helpless against a child's grief. The most powerful man in Austin couldn't stop his daughter from crying, and everyone was watching his failure. Isabel Moreno set down her water pitcher behind the bar. Her hands didn't shake. She'd seen this before, not the wealth, not the audience, but the crying, the kind that came from a place words couldn't reach. Her abuela cried like that during bad nights, when Alzheimer's stole her memories and left only confusion. Isabel had learned something during those nights. Some pain needed melody, not explanation. 18 months ago, she'd been a music therapist. She'd calmed hundreds of traumatized children using techniques that had nothing to do with money. Now she served water to people who'd never notice her. But she noticed them. "Please, Sophie, tell Daddy what's wrong," Richard whispered. His voice cracked. His daughter's wails grew louder. Guests shifted in their seats. His security team exchanged glances. Isabel's manager had been clear that morning. "Don't bother the VIPs. Don't cross professional lines. Stay invisible." She took 3 steps toward their table anyway. Richard looked up. Irritation flashed across his face before he registered something in Isabel's expression. Calm where he felt chaos. Certainty where he felt helpless. What Richard didn't know was that in 78 minutes, Isabel would sing the exact lullaby his late wife used to comfort Sophie. A song in Spanish he'd never heard because he'd never learned his wife's language. A song that would shatter everything he thought he knew about the woman he'd married. But first, Isabel had to survive his rejection. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Subscribe now so we can share more moments when compassion bridges impossible distances. 6 hours earlier, Isabel's shift had started like every other Friday evening. She tied her black apron behind the bar at Riverside Grill, while kitchen orders rang through the pass. Seared steak, grilled salmon, truffle risotto. The smell mixed with expensive perfume from guests who arrived in cars worth more than Isabel made in 5 years. Austin's skyline glowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Rain began falling around 7, streaking the glass, turning the Colorado River below into rippling darkness. Isabel carried trays between tables, smiled, refilled water glasses, stayed invisible. Table 12 just arrived, Carla said behind her. Carla had worked Riverside Grill for 23 years. She knew every regular, every VIP, every power player in Austin. Her gray hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes missed nothing. Isabel glanced toward the private dining section. The reservation? Richard Brennan. Carla's voice dropped. "Tech billionaire. Brings his daughter sometimes. Management wants VIP treatment. No interruptions. No small talk. Just perfect service." Isabel nodded. She'd served plenty of billionaires. They rarely looked at her face. "They requested the corner table," Carla added. "The one with privacy." She paused. "Something feels different tonight." He sounded stressed on the phone. Isabel picked up her notepad. Another shift. Another invisible night. She had no idea everything was about to change. Isabel was 7 years old again, standing in her abuela's kitchen in San Antonio, watching her grandmother's hands-shaped tortillas while singing Duerme Negrito in Spanish. The memory faded. She was back in the present, back in the staff locker room, back in the life she'd rebuilt from nothing. 18 months, for days since the termination letter. Isabel still remembered the exact words. "Due to budgetary constraints, the music therapy department will be eliminated effective immediately." She'd worked at Austin General Hospital for 6 years, helped hundreds of children process trauma through music, built trust with families facing impossible grief. Then budget cuts erased her entire department overnight. Her grandmother's Alzheimer's diagnosis came 3 weeks later. The timing felt cruel. Isabel had lost her career just when her abuela needed her most. Memory care facilities cost $4,000 monthly. Her savings disappeared in 6 months. Waitressing paid the bills. Isabel opened her locker before her shift started. Inside, tucked behind her spare uniform, sat her grandmother's antique music box. Mahogany wood, silver hinges. It had belonged to her abuela's mother in Mexico. Inside the lid, a note written in faded ink. Canciones sanan corazones. Songs heal hearts. Isabel touched the music box gently. She hadn't opened it in weeks. Couldn't bear to hear the melody and remember everything she lost. Her therapy license gathering dust. Her skills unused. Her purpose gone. She closed the locker. The music box stayed hidden. Some things hurt too much to remember. But music therapy training didn't disappear just because the job did. Isabel still noticed things other people missed. A child's breathing pattern during panic. The specific pitch of grief versus fear. The way trauma lived in bodies, not just minds. She didn't know those skills were about to save a little girl's life and change her own forever. Richard Brennan walked through Riverside Grill's entrance at 7:43. Isabel saw him from across the dining room. Impossible to miss. His presence shifted the atmosphere, like weather changing. He wore a custom-tailored charcoal suit. No tie. White shirt open at the collar. A $47,000 Patek Philippe watch caught the chandelier light. His posture radiated control. Shoulders back. Jaw set. Every movement deliberate. But exhaustion lived in his eyes. Dark circles. Tension around his mouth. This wasn't a man celebrating success. This was a man carrying weight. His security team followed. 2 men in dark suits. Earpieces. Scanning the room automatically. Sophie walked beside her father. 7 years old. Dark curls. Pink dress. Her small hand clutched something against her chest. A photograph. Faded. Bent at the corners. Richard noticed. His expression softened. He knelt down to Sophie's level. His voice turned tender. Not tonight, sweetheart. Let's put away. Sophie's fingers tightened on the photograph. Richard gently removed it from her grip, tucked it into his jacket pocket. She didn't fight him, just looked at the floor. Isabel watched from the bar. Something about that moment felt significant. A father trying to protect his daughter from something. A daughter clinging to a memory. Richard stood, led Sophie toward the private dining section. Around his neck, visible against his white shirt, hung a gold chain. A wedding ring threaded through it. Not on his finger where it belonged, but close to his heart. He was a widower. Isabel recognized the signs. She'd seen enough grief to know its shape. Sophie sat across from her father. Her feet didn't reach the floor. She swung them back and forth under the table. Richard ordered sparkling water for both of them. Tried to smile. How was school this week? Sophie shrugged. Didn't answer. Richard's jaw tightened. He tried again. Sophie, we need to talk about the changes at home. I don't want to talk about it. Sophie's voice was small, tight. Sweetheart, I know this is hard, but we have to discuss. No. Sophie's breathing quickened. Her hands balled into fists. Sophie. The crying started, soft at first, then louder, then uncontrollable. Her whole body shook. Gasping sobs that tore from somewhere deep. Hyperventilation. Trembling. Sophie's face turned red. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Richard reached across the table. Sophie, please. Tell Daddy what's wrong. She couldn't speak. Just cried harder. Nearby diners turned. Stared. Whispered. A woman at table 9 made a face. A man at table 14 called for the manager. Richard's security team stepped closer. Uncertain. One man pulled out his phone. Sir, should we call medical? No. Richard's voice was sharp, then softer. Just give us a minute. But Sophie wasn't stopping. 30 seconds. 60. 90. Her crying filled the entire restaurant. Other conversations died. Everyone watched the billionaire fail to comfort his own daughter. The manager appeared at Isabel's side. Go offer them a different table. More privacy. Don't engage with the child. Just logistics. Isabel's grip on her notepad tightened. She looked at Sophie, saw past the crying. This wasn't a tantrum. This was trauma. Carla touched Isabel's arm. I've seen you handle crying kids before. This one's different. You see something. Isabel nodded. She saw everything, and staying quiet felt impossible. Isabel crossed the dining room. Her heart pounded, but her hand stayed steady. She'd made her choice. Professional consequences didn't matter when a child needed help. She approached the table slowly, non-threatening. Richard looked up. Irritation flashed across his face. "We're fine. We don't need." Isabel knelt down, put herself at Sophie's eye level, not standing over the child, not invading her space, just present, calm. "Hola pequeña," Isabel said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Puedo sentarme contigo?" Sophie's crying softened, just slightly. Her eyes flickered toward Isabel. The Spanish words cut through the panic somehow. Different sounds, different rhythm. Richard snapped. "She doesn't speak Spanish." Isabel's eyes narrowed with recognition. This child understood more than her father realized. Children respond to tones before translation, sir. She kept her voice gentle. "May I try something?" Richard looked desperate, helpless. He nodded. Isabel hummed. 3 notes. Low, melodic, soothing. A fragment of something old. Something her abuela used to sing. Not the full lullaby. Just a musical phrase. Sophie's breathing hitched. Her crying paused. Then something impossible happened. She hummed back. The same 3 notes. Unconscious. Automatic. Like muscle memory. Isabel's chest tightened. This child knew this melody. From somewhere. Someone. But who? Richard stared. "How did you?" "Music reaches places words can't," Isabel said. She kept her eyes on Sophie. "Especially for grief." Grief. Richard's voice cracked on the word. Isabel finally looked at him. "Yes. She's not angry, sir. She's heartbroken. There's a difference." Richard's face drained of color. His hand shook. For the first time, he saw his daughter clearly. Not a behavioral problem. Not a tantrum. But a child drowning in loss she couldn't name. Sophie reached for Isabel's hand. Held it. Her crying slowed to hiccups. Then quiet. The restaurant stayed silent. Everyone watched. And Isabel realized she just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. The manager's glare burned from across the room. Isabel felt it like heat. She directly disobeyed orders. Engaged with a VIP guest. Overstepped every professional boundary. Her rent was 12 days overdue. The eviction notice sat on her kitchen counter. $783. She needed this job. Needed every shift. Every tip. Every hour. Her grandmother's memory care facility had threatened eviction last week. For $1,000 monthly. Isabel was 2 payments behind. The director's voice echoed in her memory. "We understand your situation, but without payment, we'll have to transition your grandmother to county care." County care meant understaffing. Neglect. Her abuela lost and confused in a place where nobody sang to her. Nobody spoke Spanish. Nobody held her hand during the scared nights. Professional boundaries versus therapeutic instinct. Isabel knew which one mattered more. But knowing didn't make the consequences disappear. Sophie's small fingers squeezed Isabel's hand. Still warm from crying. Still trusting. Still desperate for comfort her father couldn't provide. Richard watched them. Something shifted in his expression. The arrogance cracked. Vulnerability showed through. The manager started walking toward their table. His face promised consequences. Termination. Blacklisting. Isabel had seen it before. One mistake. One boundary crossed. Career over. But Sophie's breathing was steady now. Calm. Healing. Isabel had made her choice. Let the consequences come. Your support means everything. Subscribe to see how one song changes 3 broken hearts. Richard studied Isabel's face. Searching. Calculating. His business mind processing what just happened. A waitress calmed his daughter in 90 seconds when he'd failed for weeks. That meant something. He didn't know what yet. "What's your name?" His voice was different now. Less commanding. More genuine. "Isabel Moreno." He said music reaches places words can't. Richard leaned forward. "Is that something you learned? Or something you know?" Isabel hesitated. Admitting her past meant exposing vulnerability. But Sophie still held her hand. Still needed her. "I know it. From experience." Richard's eyes narrowed. "What kind of experience?" "The kind that doesn't matter anymore. It matters right now." Richard glanced at Sophie, then back at Isabel. A decision formed behind his eyes, the kind billionaires made when they saw opportunity. Okay, I'll make you a deal. Isabel's stomach tightened. Deals with powerful men rarely benefited people like her. If you can calm her down completely in 5 minutes, not just pause crying, but actually help her, I'll donate $50,000 to whatever charity you choose. Nearby tables turned. Phones appeared. Someone started recording. The challenge was public now. Witnesses everywhere. Sophie's breathing hitched again. The brief calm was fading. Panic rising. Her small body started trembling. Isabel could see it. The child was approaching another breakdown. Medical intervention territory. 5 minutes. $50,000. Isabel didn't care about the money. But Sophie's distress was real. Escalating. Dangerous. The espresso machine behind the bar hissed. Steam rising. The sound matched Sophie's ragged breathing. Fast. Shallow. Panicked. I don't want your money, Isabel said quietly. But I'll help her. Not because of a bet. Because she needs it. Richard's expression flickered. Surprise. Respect. Then help her. Please. Isabel turned back to Sophie. The child's eyes were wide. Terrified. Grief and panic tangled together. Isabel recognized the signs. She'd seen them hundreds of times. In hospital rooms. During family meetings. When children lost parents and nobody knew how to reach them. Time pressure mounted. Guests stared. The manager hovered. Richard's security team watched tensely. Sophie's breathing grew faster. More desperate. Isabel made a choice. Not as a waitress. As the therapist she'd never stopped being. Sophie, she said gently. Can you hear the rhythm I'm tapping? She began, a gentle percussion on the table. Slow. Steady. A heartbeat pattern. Isabel's fingers tapped the table. Right hand. Then left. Then right again. A steady rhythm. Simple. Grounding. Sophie's eyes followed the movement. This is called bilateral stimulation. Isabel explained quietly. Her voice stayed calm. Professional. It helps your brain process big feelings. Richard leaned forward. What? Isabel held up one finger. Not rude. Just focused. Watch. She kept tapping. Right. Left. Right. Left. Sophie's breathing began matching the rhythm. Unconscious. Automatic. The body following pattern. Now, Sophie, I want you to breathe with me. When my right hand taps, breathe in. When my left hand taps, breathe out. Sophie tried. Shaky at first. But her lungs followed the pattern. In, out, in, out. Good, Isabel said. You're doing so good, Pequeña. The Spanish word again. Sophie's shoulders relaxed slightly. What you're feeling right now is really big, Isabel continued. Soft. Steady. Sometimes feelings are so big they get stuck in our bodies. The tapping helps them move through. Sophie nodded. Tears still streamed down her face. But the hyperventilation stopped. Her breathing deepened. Can you feel your heart beating? Isabel asked. Sophie pressed her hand to her chest. Nodded. That's good. Your heart is working hard to keep you safe. Even when everything feels scary, your heart keeps going. Just like this rhythm. Right. Left. Right. Left. Richard stared. Where did you learn this? Isabel didn't look away from Sophie. I was a music therapist. Before. Before what? Before it didn't matter anymore. It matters now, Richard said. His voice was quieter. It clearly matters. Isabel continued the tapping. Sophie's breathing stabilized. The red flush faded from her cheeks. Her fists unclenched. Bilateral stimulation reduces cortisol during grief episodes, Isabel explained. It's neuroscience. When we process trauma, both sides of the brain need to communicate. The rhythm helps that happen. You're talking about EMDR, Richard said. Recognition in his voice. I'm movement desensitization. I've read about it. Similar principle. Isabel's fingers never stopped the rhythm, but adapted for children. Music therapy uses sound, rhythm, and melody instead of just visual tracking. Sophie took a deep breath, then another. Her body stopped shaking. The panic faded. She looked at Isabel with wet eyes. How do you know what I'm feeling? Because I felt it too, Isabel said honestly. When people we love go away, it hurts everywhere, not just in our hearts. in our whole bodies. My mommy went away. Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. I know, sweetheart. I know. Richard's face crumpled. He pressed his hands over his eyes. His shoulders shook. Isabel realized he was crying, silently, trying to hide it. Sophie's breathing was normal now, calm, stable. The crisis had passed. Isabel stopped tapping. The silence felt heavy. Around them, guests went back to their meals. The show was over, but something profound had shifted. Richard lowered his hands. His eyes were red. My wife died 6 months ago. Cancer. I thought I was handling it. But Sophie, his voice broke. I don't know how to help her. You're helping her right now, Isabel said gently, by letting her feel it, by being here. But I don't understand what she needs. Maybe you need to learn. The restaurant door opened. Heels clicked across marble floors. Sharp, precise, purposeful. A woman approached their table. Tall, blonde hair pulled back severely. Designer suit, cold eyes behind frameless glasses. Richard. Her voice was ice. I got your text about dinner. I came as soon as I could. Richard straightened, wiped his eyes. Vanessa. I didn't expect you this soon. Vanessa Sterling stood at the edge of their table. Her gaze swept over Sophie. Then Isabel lingered on Isabel's uniform. Her expression hardened. I see you found help. The word dripped with disdain. This is Isabel, Richard said. She's been overstepping. Vanessa's eyebrow arched. Yes, I noticed from the door. Isabel stood, put distance between herself and Sophie. Professional boundaries reasserted. I was just helping during a difficult moment. Helping. Vanessa repeated the word like it tasted bad. How generous. And you are? A waitress. Isabel Moreno. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Something clicked behind her expression. Recognition. Moreno. Isabel Moreno. She pulled out her phone. Scrolled. You worked at Austin General Hospital. Music therapy department. Isabel's blood ran cold. We let you go. Vanessa smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Budget cuts. I sit on the hospital board. I remember reviewing termination lists. Your name was on it. You cut the entire department. Isabel's voice stayed level. Not just me. Yes. Well, non-essential services during financial restructuring. Vanessa turned to Richard. This is who you're trusting with Sophie? An unemployed therapist working as a waitress. Richard frowned. Vanessa. I'm Sophie's legal guardian per Captain's will, Vanessa said, which means I have a say in who has access to her. And unauthorized medical advice from unvetted individuals crosses serious legal lines. She wasn't giving medical advice, Richard said. She was helping during a panic attack. A panic attack you allowed to escalate because you lack proper resources. Vanessa's tone was sharp. I've told you repeatedly. Sophie needs professional care. Residential treatment. Not improvisation from restaurant staff. Residential treatment? Richard's voice rose. She's 7 years old. She needs her father. Her home. Not to be institutionalized. She needs stability. Structure. Professional intervention. Vanessa looked at Isabel. Not this. Isabel felt the threat. Vanessa held power. Board positions. Legal guardianship. Money. Connections. She could destroy what little Isabel had rebuilt. Mr. Brennan doesn't need unauthorized medical advice, Vanessa said coldly. Security? The two men in dark suits stepped forward. I think it's time for the waitress to return to her duties, Vanessa said. Don't you? The restaurant held its breath. Power dynamics playing out in real time. Isabel was losing. She'd always been going to lose. Richard held up his hand. Stand down. The security team stopped. Vanessa's expression tightened. Richard? Isabel, thank you, Richard said. His voice was formal now, controlled. For your help tonight. I appreciate it. Dismissal. Polite. Final. Isabel recognized the tone. She'd been useful. Now she was done. She nodded. Walked back toward the bar. Her hands shook. Carla met her with worried eyes. You okay? I'm fine. Isabel wasn't fine. She'd crossed lines. Made enemies. Vanessa Sterling sat on the hospital board. One phone call could blacklist Isabel from every medical facility in Austin. But Sophie's breathing had been steady when Isabel left. That counted for something. At the table, Richard pulled out his phone, typed quickly. Vanessa was talking, gesturing, making her case. But Richard's attention was elsewhere. Find everything on Isabel Moreno, he texted his assistant. Employment history, licenses, credentials, patient outcomes, everything. His assistant responded within minutes. Then 5 minutes. Then 10. Information flooded Richard's phone. Isabel Moreno, licensed music therapist, 2017 to 2023. Specialized in pediatric grief counseling. Austin General Hospital, Children's Oncology Unit. Spotless record. 0 complaints. Patient outcomes exceeded department averages by 37%. Termination notes. Department dissolved due to budget constraints. Employee performance exemplary. Families expressed consistent satisfaction. Multiple commendations for compassionate care during terminal illness cases. Richard's thumb scrolled, then stopped. One particular note caught his attention. Employee specifically requested by name during final hospice care for patient. Catherine Brennan. Family indicated exceptional support during terminal cancer treatment. Patient's husband was traveling for business during final weeks. Therapist provided critical emotional support to patient and patient's daughter, age 6. Richard's hands started shaking. Catherine had known Isabel. Catherine had requested her during those final weeks. When Richard was closing his Series C funding round. When he was in San Francisco, Boston, New York, everywhere except his wife's hospital room. Isabel had been there, singing to his dying wife, comforting his daughter, while he chased another $1 billion. He'd just dismissed the woman who'd held his family together when he couldn't. Richard stood abruptly. Vanessa looked up, surprised. Where are you going? To fix a mistake. He crossed the restaurant, found Isabel at the bar. She was filling water glasses, hand steady, face composed, but her eyes looked tired. Isabel. She turned. Mr. Brennan, do you need something else? I need to apologize. That surprised her. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. Richard's voice was rough. My assistant just sent me your employment records. You cared for my wife during her final hospice weeks. Isabel's expression shifted. Recognition. Catherine. She was your wife. You remember her. I remember everyone. Isabel's eyes grew distant. She was kind, even when she was in pain. She sang to Sophie every night. Spanish lullabies. Richard's throat closed. I didn't know. I was traveling. I thought she was fine. The doctors said she had time. She did have time, just not much. And I wasn't there. You're here now, Isabel said gently. That's what matters. Sophie appeared at Richard's side. She'd followed him. Her small hand reached for Isabel. Don't leave. The words hit like a physical blow. Isabel knelt down. Sophie's small fingers clung with desperate strength. The same desperation Isabel knew from her abuela's confused episodes. The need for someone who understood. Someone safe. Sophie, I have to work, Isabel said softly. Please stay. Just through dinner. Richard's voice cracked. I'll pay whatever. I don't want any money. Then what do you want? Isabel looked at Sophie, at the little girl who'd lost her mother, who needed more than money could buy. I want her to be okay. Then help me make that happen. Richard's pride was gone. Only vulnerability remained. Please. Across the restaurant, Vanessa watched. Her expression darkened. Isabel felt the weight of impossible choices. Stay and risk everything. Leave and abandon a child who needed her. Isabel's break came at 9:30. She stepped into the back hallway, where staff ate hurried meals between shifts. Her hand shook. Adrenaline crash after Sophie's crisis. After Vanessa's threats. After Richard's apology that changed nothing. Carla sat on the storage crates eating leftover bread. She'd been watching Isabel all night, waiting. Come here, Mija. Carla patted the crate beside her. Sit before you fall down. Isabel sat. Her legs felt weak. I think I just destroyed my life. Or saved it. Carla broke the bread in half. Offered a piece. Depends how you look at it. Isabel took the bread, but didn't eat. Vanessa Sterling wants me gone. She has power, money, connections. I'm nobody. You're somebody to that little girl. Carla's voice was firm. I saw what happened out there. That child needed you. You helped her. That's not nothing. It won't matter when I'm unemployed and blacklisted. Carla was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. I remember when Richard's wife used to come here. Before you worked here. About 8 years ago. Isabel looked up. Catherine. She never told me her name, but she was pregnant. 6 months along. Beautiful woman. Sad eyes. Carla stared at the wall like she was watching a memory. She'd come alone. Always alone. Order in Spanish. The kitchen staff loved her. She'd sit by the window for hours. Sometimes she cried. Quietly. Like she didn't want anyone to notice. Isabel's chest tightened. Richard never came with her? Never. Not once. Carla's expression hardened. She'd make phone calls. Speak Spanish to someone. Her mother maybe. Her voice would break. She was so lonely. Did you ever talk to her? Once. Near the end of her pregnancy. She was crying. I brought her tea. Asked if she was okay. Carla paused. She said, I gave up my name, my language, my family, for a man who's never here. Then she apologized, said she was being dramatic, blamed it on hormones. Isabel felt tears building. Catherine had been erased, slowed, completely. Changed her name from Catalina Bernal to Catherine Brennan. Stopped speaking Spanish in public. Cut ties with her culture to fit into Richard's world. She never came back after Sophie was born, Carla continued. I always wondered what happened to her. Now I know. She died 6 months ago. Cancer. Carla closed her eyes. Dios mío. That poor woman. That poor child. Richard didn't know, Isabel said quietly. About the Spanish songs. About how much Catherine gave up. He never learned her language. Never asked. Powerful men often don't know their own families, Mija. Carla's voice carried decades of wisdom. They buy everything except understanding. Houses, cars, schools, therapy if the kid acts out. But they don't buy time. They don't buy presence. They don't buy the kind of knowing that comes from actually paying attention. Isabel thought about Richard's face when Sophie hummed that melody. The shock. The recognition that his daughter knew something he didn't. Something his dead wife had taught her in a language he'd never bothered to learn. He's trying now, Isabel said. Now that it's almost too late. Carla stood, brushed crumbs from her uniform. The question is, will you help him? Or will you let Vanessa Sterling destroy what little chance that family has left? Vanessa Sterling stood outside Riverside Grill, making phone calls. Her voice carried through the glass doors. Sharp, commanding, destroying lives with casual efficiency. Jennifer? It's Vanessa Sterling. Yes, I know it's late. I need a favor. Inside, Isabel finished her break, walked back to the dining floor, tried to focus on work, on survival, on anything except the little girl who'd climbed into her lap like she belonged there. The manager appeared beside her. His face was hard. Isabel, my office. Now. Her stomach dropped. She followed him past the kitchen, past the bar, into the cramped office that smelled like old coffee and stress. He closed the door, didn't offer her a seat. I just got off the phone with the owner. Apparently, Vanessa Sterling called her. They went to college together. I was helping a child, Isabel said. Her voice stayed level. She was having a panic attack. You were overstepping. The manager's jaw was tight. Miss Sterling has threatened to pull Mr. Brennan's corporate account. Do you know how much that's worth? $200,000 annually. Parties, events, business dinners. And that's worth more than a child's well-being? That's worth more than your job. He pulled papers from his desk. You're suspended. Pending review of unprofessional conduct with a VIP guest. The words hit like a fist. Suspended. Effective immediately. You'll receive notification within 48 hours about whether this becomes termination. I didn't do anything wrong. You engaged personally with a guest child. You provided what could be construed as medical advice without credentials. You created a scene that disturbed other diners. I calmed a traumatized child using therapeutic techniques I was trained for. Isabel's voice rose. She couldn't stop it. That's not unprofessional. That's human. It's a liability. The manager opened the office door. Dismissal. Clear out your locker. Security will escort you out. Isabel walked out of the office. The dining floor blurred. Guests stared, whispered. Richard sat at his table. Sophie, beside him. He saw the manager, saw Isabel's face. Understanding dawned. He stood abruptly, crossed the restaurant. What's happening? Sir, please return to your table, the manager said. What did you just say to her? That's between management and staff. Did you fire her? Richard's voice was sharp, commanding. Because she helped my daughter? Isabel touched Richard's arm. Don't. It's not worth it. Like hell it's not. Richard turned to the manager. How much does Vanessa Sterling's threat mean to you? Name a number. The manager's face flushed. Mr. Brennan, this isn't about money. Everything is about money. Name a number. Isabel walked away. She couldn't watch this. Couldn't let Richard fight battles that would only make things worse. She went to her locker. Started packing. 18 months of rebuilding. Again, Isabel was emptying her locker when she heard crying. Soft, desperate, coming from the hallway. Sophie stood there, alone, tears streaming down her face. Security was searching for her. Richard was arguing with the manager. Nobody had noticed the 7-year-old slip away. Sophie. Isabel knelt down. What's wrong, Pequena? They're making you leave. Sophie's voice hitched. Because of me. No, not because of you. Never because of you. I don't want you to go. Sophie grabbed Isabel's hands. Please don't go. You're the only one who... She stopped. Started crying harder. The only one who what? Sophie's words came out fractured, broken. A mix of English and Spanish that barely made sense. Mommy song. I can't remember. Isabel's heart stopped. What song, sweetheart? The one she sang. Every night. Before she... Sophie's whole body shook. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting her voice. I can't hear it anymore. I try and try, but it's gone and I'm so scared. The grief was raw, primal. This child was losing her mother twice. Once to death. Now to fading memory. The cruelest theft. Isabel recognized this. She'd seen it in therapy sessions. Children whose parents died young. The panic when memories started blurring. When voices faded. When the only connection to someone they loved disappeared into silence. Songs heal hearts. Her abuela's note. The music box in her locker. The reason Isabel had become a music therapist in the first place. She made a split-second choice. Come here. Isabel pulled Sophie close. Held her. I'm going to sing something. Tell me if it sounds familiar. She began softly. Duerme, duerme, negrito. Que tu mama esta en el campo negrito. Traditional lullaby, passed down through generations. Her abuela had taught her, probably the same way Catherine's mother had taught Catherine, the same way Catherine had taught Sophie. Sophie's crying stopped. Instantly, like a switch flipping. Her whole body went still. Isabel continued. Duerme, duerme, mojado. Que tu mama esta en el campo mojado. Mommy sang that. Sophie's whisper was awed, broken, grateful. That's the song. That's her song. It's your song too, Isabel said gently. It's a song that mothers sing to their babies. In Spanish. It's very old, very special. How did you know? Because my abuela sang it to me, and her mama sang it to her, and probably your mommy's mama sang it to her. It's a gift, passed down. It doesn't disappear, Pequena. Even when people go away, the songs stay. Sophie climbed into Isabel's lap. Something she hadn't done with anyone since her mother died. Her small arms wrapped around Isabel's neck. Her face pressed against Isabel's shoulder. She sobbed, but different now. Not panic, release. Isabel kept singing, rocking gently. The melody filled the hallway. Kitchen staff appeared. Stopped working. Listened. Carla stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Richard found them like that. His daughter in Isabel's arms. The lullaby his wife used to sing. The language he'd never learned. The connection he'd never built. His face drained to color. He leaned against the wall, slid down, sat on the floor with his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. Isabel sang the whole song, every verse. Sophie's breathing steadied, deepened. She fell asleep, exhausted from crying, from grief, from finally finally remembering her mother's voice. The music box in Isabel's locker had the same song, recorded, time-stamped, proof of what belonged to culture, not coaching. Proof of intergenerational wisdom. Proof that some knowledge couldn't be bought or stolen. Only shared. Isabel held Sophie, watched Richard cry, and understood that everything was about to change. Again, at 10:15, the storm hit. Not gradual, not gentle. Austin's autumn storms came like walls of water. Thunder cracked. Lightning split the sky. Rain hammered the restaurant roof. The manager appeared. We're closing early. Flooding on 6th Street. Everyone out. Staff scrambled. Collecting tips. Clocking out. Running to cars. Isabel stood in the vestibule holding Sophie. Still sleeping. Still clinging. Richard waited beside her. My driver can't get through. Roads are flooded downtown. The bus routes are suspended, Carla said, checking her phone. City-wide alert. We'll wait it out here, Richard said, until it's safe. The restaurant emptied. Manager locked the doors. Left through the back. Suddenly it was just them. Isabel, Richard, Sophie. Security team at a respectful distance. They sat in the vestibule. Leather chairs. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing the storm. The Colorado River rising. Streets flooding. City lights reflecting off moving water. Sophie slept across both their laps. Her head on Isabel's thigh. Her feet across Richard's knees. Isabel's hand stroked her hair unconsciously. Maternal. Automatic. Richard watched. Silent. Then spoke. Catherine was Mexican-American. Isabel looked at him, waiting. She changed her last name when we married. Catherine Brennan, from Catalina Bernal. Richard's voice was rough. I never questioned it. Never asked what she gave up. Never learned her language. Never asked her to teach me the songs she sang to our daughter. Why not? I thought providing was enough. Money, security, a good life. I worked 80-hour weeks building my company. Told myself I was doing it for their future. He paused, but I missed the present. You're here now, Isabel said gently. Now that she's gone. Now that my daughter is forgetting her. Richard's tears fell silently. I lost everything too. Career wasn't enough. Identity wasn't enough. Purpose wasn't enough. What I learned is we don't lose people. We lose the parts of them we never knew existed. Isabel's breath caught. Yes, exactly that. Catherine requested you. During hospice. I didn't know. I was closing a funding round. Series C, $72 million. I thought I had time. The doctors said weeks. She died in 4 days. She wasn't alone, Isabel said. Sophie was there. I was there. We sang to her. In Spanish. In Spanish. Richard closed his eyes. Thank you for being there when I wasn't. Outside, lightning illuminated the storm. Inside, Sophie slept peacefully, finally remembering, finally healing. Carla appeared from the back hallway. She'd stayed late, waiting. She held papers in her hands. Official documents. Evidence. Isabel, I need to tell you something. Isabel looked up carefully. Didn't want to wake Sophie. I reported Vanessa Sterling to the labor board 3 hours ago for retaliation. Carla's voice was firm, certain. Documented everything. Her phone call to the owner. The manager's suspension. Timeline showing it happened immediately after you helped Sophie. Carla, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. Carla sat down. I'm 63 years old. I've worked this restaurant for 23 years. I've watched this city chew up good people to feed rich people's egos. Not this time. Not you. Richard leaned forward. What evidence do you have? Video footage from security cameras. Shows the whole thing. Isabel helping Sophie. Vanessa making phone calls outside. Manager pulling Isabel aside. Carla pulled out her phone. Plus this. I recorded part of Vanessa's conversation. She admitted it. Said Isabel needs to disappear before Sophie gets attached. That's a legal retaliation, Richard said quietly. Federally protected whistleblower situation. I know. Carla smiled. Fierce. Protective. I also talked to the kitchen staff. The bartender. The valet. They all witnessed Isabel's compassion tonight. They're willing to testify. To speak up. We protect our own here. and anyone who protects children is our own. Isabel's throat closed. Why would you risk this for me? Because you did the right thing when it cost you everything. Carla squeezed her hand. And because that little girl sleeping on your lap deserves someone who fights for her. So do. The storm raged outside, but inside allies gathered. Community formed. Justice prepared to answer cruelty. The court summons arrived at 6:47 the next morning. Isabel stood in her apartment doorway holding the envelope. Her hands shook. Emergency guardianship hearing. Travis County Family Court. Petitioner, Vanessa Sterling. Respondent, Richard Brennan. Witness, Isabel Moreno. She read it twice, then 3 times. Trying to understand, Vanessa was challenging Richard's custody, claiming emotional instability, claiming he'd endangered Sophie by allowing unvetted stranger access, claiming he was unfit. Isabel's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. She opened it. Video file. Security footage from Riverside Grill, but edited, manipulated. Showed Isabel grabbing Sophie's shoulders. The context removed. The comfort erased. It looked aggressive, violent, wrong. Another text. 2 witnesses will testify you acted inappropriately. You're done. Isabel sat on her apartment floor. The walls closed in. Her phone rang. The memory care facility. Her grandmother's director. Ms. Moreno, I'm calling to inform you that due to circumstances affecting your employment stability, we can no longer house your grandmother. We require 14 days' notice. What circumstances? Isabel's voice cracked. We were contacted by a board member, informed of pending legal proceedings, allegations of professional misconduct. We can't risk. My grandmother has Alzheimer's. She needs care. We understand, but our liability insurance requires us to maintain standards. I'm very sorry. The call ended. Isabel stared at her phone. Her world collapsed. Again, faster this time. More completely. Vanessa Sterling was destroying everything. Job, reputation, family, using money and power and connections like weapons. And Isabel had no defense. Another letter came, hand-delivered, from Richard's legal team. Not from Richard, from his lawyers. Professional, distant, cold. We request you make yourself available for deposition regarding events at Riverside Grill on October 17th. Your testimony will be crucial to custody proceedings. We will contact you with scheduling information. No personal note, no reassurance, just legal formality. Isabel packed her grandmother's belongings, prepared for eviction, for county care, for everything she'd fought to prevent. Her abuelo would be lost, confused, alone in understaffed facilities where nobody spoke Spanish. Nobody sang to her. Nobody held her hand during scared nights. The custody hearing was scheduled for 10 days from now. Judge Maria Santos presiding. Vanessa's lawyers were the best money could buy. $3,000 suits, Ivy League degrees, sharp reputations. Isabel owned one professional blazer from her therapy days. It didn't fit quite right anymore. Weight loss from stress and waitressing. But it was all she had. Sophie called her phone. Isabel? Daddy says I can't see you until after court. I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? No, Pequena. You did nothing wrong. Then why can't you come over? Why can't you sing to me? It's complicated. Adult things. Legal things. I miss you. Sophie's voice broke. I miss you, and I miss Mommy, and everything hurts, and I don't know how to make it stop. I know, sweetheart. I know. Vanessa says you're dangerous. She says you hurt me, but you didn't. You helped me. Why is she lying? Isabel closed her eyes. Sometimes people lie because they're scared, or because they want something, or because they don't understand. I don't want her to be my guardian. I want you. The call ended. Isabel sat in silence, counted her options, found none. 3 days before the hearing, Isabel saw them through a coffee shop window. Richard, Vanessa, 3 lawyers in expensive suits, meeting at a corner table, laughing, shaking hands, documents spread between them. Her stomach dropped. He'd chosen power, chosen custody, chosen the path that protected him, even if it meant throwing her away. She should have known. Billionaires always protected themselves first. Always. Isabel went home, packed her locker contents from work. The music therapy certificates went in the trash. The degrees she'd worked 6 years to earn. The licenses, that meant nothing now. The proof of a life that didn't matter. Her grandmother's music box stayed. She held it, the only thing left. Some battles aren't yours to fight, Mija, Carla had said on the phone. Walk away. Protect yourself. I should have stayed invisible, Isabel whispered. To herself, to the empty apartment, to the universe that kept taking everything she tried to build. She wrote a letter. To Richard, to the lawyers, withdrawing her testimony, refusing to participate. Let him fight his own custody battle. Let him explain to Sophie why the woman who'd comforted her disappeared. Let him face the consequences of his choices. Isabel sealed the envelope, prepared to mail it, prepared to walk away forever. But she didn't know what Richard was actually doing in that coffee shop. Didn't know he'd hired forensic accountants, investigators, white-collar crime specialists. Didn't know he'd spent 72 hours building a case against Vanessa. Didn't know he'd discovered embezzlement, fraud, theft from his dead wife's memorial foundation. Money meant for children's therapy programs. Money Vanessa had stolen while pretending to care about Sophie's well-being. Richard was gathering weapons, not abandoning Isabel, preparing war. But Isabel didn't know that, so she packed her life. Again, prepared for the ending she'd always known was coming. The night before the hearing, Isabel opened her grandmother's music box. She hadn't touched it in weeks, couldn't bear the memories. But tonight felt like goodbye to everything. The melody played, tinny, old, beautiful, Duerme Negrito. The same song she'd sung to Sophie. The same song her abuela had sung to her. The same song stretching back through generations. Inside the lid, beneath her abuela's note, Isabel found something she'd forgotten. A USB drive, taped to the wood. Her grandmother had been recording herself before the Alzheimer's got bad. Preserving memories. Preserving voice. Preserving the songs. Isabel plugged it into her laptop. Dozens of files. Dated. Time-stamped. Her abuela singing lullabies. Telling stories. Speaking in Spanish and English. Preserving her identity before it disappeared. One file was labeled Parmi Isabel. For my Isabel. She clicked play. Her abuela's voice filled the apartment. Clear. Strong. Before the disease stole it. Mija, if you're listening to this, I'm probably gone. Or close to it. I want you to know something. Music therapy wasn't a job. It was a calling. You save people. Children. Families. During the worst moments of their lives. Budget cuts don't erase that. They can fire you, but they can't take away what you did. What you are. A healer. Don't forget. Isabel's tears fell. Steady. Silent. The recording continued. I'm including the songs I taught you. Time-stamped. Recorded. So you'll always have proof they belong to us. To our family. To our culture. No one can steal these. No one can claim you taught them wrong. They're ours. Pass them on, Mija. That's how we survive. The files were dated 2 years ago. Before Isabel lost her job. Before the Alzheimer's got bad. Her abuela had known. Had prepared. Had protected her. Isabel's phone buzzed. Email from Richard's legal team. Subject. Evidence for custody hearing. She opened it carefully. Attachments loaded. Security footage. Unedited. Showing the full context. Isabel helping Sophie. Not restraining. Comforting. Another attachment. Catherine's hospice records. Isabel's name throughout. Patient specifically requested music therapist Isabel Moreno by name. Family expressed gratitude for exceptional care during terminal illness. Therapist provided critical emotional support to patient and patient's daughter during final weeks. Richard's note at the bottom. Catherine wrote about you in her journal. During hospice, she said you sang to Sophie when I wasn't there. She said you were the only one who understood what she needed. Spanish lullabies. Cultural connection. The parts of herself she'd hidden. I never knew. I was too busy closing the series, See Round. Chasing money that meant nothing. I'm sorry I wasn't there. Thank you for being there when I couldn't be. Another attachment. Catherine's journal entry. Dated 6 days before she died. Isabel sang Duerme Negrito today. Sophie finally stopped crying. I haven't heard that song since my mama died. I'd forgotten how beautiful it sounds. How safe it makes me feel. I wish Richard knew these songs. Wish he'd learned my language. Wish I'd taught him. But there's no time left. At least Sophie will remember. Isabel promised. Isabel closed her laptop, held her grandmother's music box. The evidence she needed. The proof that songs heal hearts. The validation that her life's work mattered. The morning of the hearing, Isabel's doorbell rang at 7. She opened it. Carla stood there. Behind her, the entire Riverside Grill staff. Line cooks, bartenders, servers, even customers she'd served for 18 months. What are you doing here? Going to court, Carla said simply. All of us. You don't have to. We know. Carla handed her coffee. But we're going anyway. They drove in a caravan. 7 cars. 15 people. Isabel rode with Carla. Silent. Overwhelmed. I'm 63 years old, Carla said, breaking the silence. I've watched this city chew up good people to feed rich people's egos for my entire life. I've stayed quiet, stayed safe, kept my head down. But not this time. Not you. Not that little girl. At the courthouse, more people waited. Isabel recognized faces. Former patients' families. Children she'd helped at Austin General Hospital. Parents whose kids survived trauma because of music therapy. They'd come for her. A woman approached. Late 50s. Tired eyes. You probably don't remember me. My son was in the oncology unit 4 years ago. Leukemia. He was 8. You sang to him every day during chemo. Made him a playlist. Taught him guitar. Isabel remembered. Jacob. Is he in remission? 3 years now. The woman's voice broke. You saved him. Not just medically, but you gave him joy during the worst time of his life. When I heard what was happening, that they were trying to destroy you, I had to come, had to speak up. More stories, more families, more validation. The line cook had video evidence. The valet had audio recordings. Vanessa's words, clear, damning. Isabel needs to disappear before Sophie gets attached. Carla had documentation of retaliation, timestamps, phone records, proof of illegal termination. We protect our own, Carla said. And anyone who protects children is our own. That's not negotiable. Richard arrived separately, lawyers flanking him. But when he saw the crowd, Isabel's allies, her community, her witnesses, his expression shifted. Respect, gratitude, understanding. Vanessa arrived in a town car, designer suit, expensive lawyers, confidence radiating. She saw the crowd. Her expression tightened. For the first time, doubt flickered. The courthouse doors opened. Judge Maria Santos's courtroom, where justice would be decided, where truth would face power, where Isabel would finally fight back. The courtroom was oak-paneled, formal, cold. Judge Maria Santos sat behind the bench, late 50s, silver hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She presided over family court for 22 years, seen every manipulation, every lie, every power play. This is an emergency guardianship hearing, Judge Santos said. Ms. Sterling, you're petitioning for full custody of Sophie Brennan. State your grounds. Vanessa stood, poised, professional. Your Honor, I'm deeply concerned for Sophie's welfare. Mr. Brennan has exhibited emotional instability following his wife's death. He's allowed unvetted individuals, specifically an unemployed woman with no credentials, to provide unauthorized care. This endangers my goddaughter's safety and well-being. Judge Santos looked at Richard. Mr. Brennan, your response? I'm Sophie's father, Richard said quietly. I'm grieving, learning, trying to understand my daughter's needs. I made mistakes, but I'm here. I'm fighting. I'm not abandoning her. And Isabel Moreno? Judge Santos looked at Isabel. You're named in this petition. Please stand. Isabel stood, wore the blazer from her therapy days, carried her credentials, her grandmother's music box, proof of everything she was. Ms. Moreno, Ms. Sterling claims you provided unauthorized medical care, that you acted aggressively toward a minor child, that you have no valid credentials. How do you respond? Isabel's voice was steady, clear. I helped a traumatized child using therapeutic techniques I was trained for. I acted with compassion, not aggression. And my credentials are valid. They were never revoked. Only my position was eliminated. Do you have evidence? Yes, Your Honor. Isabel placed the USB drive on the table. Recordings proving the lullaby I sang is cultural tradition. Security footage showing context. Hospice records proving I cared for Sophie's mother during terminal illness. Testimonies from families I helped. Documentation of retaliation. Judge Santos leaned forward. Interested now. Present your evidence. Vanessa's lawyer stood. Objection. This is a custody hearing, not a trial about Ms. Moreno's employment. They're connected, Richard's lawyer countered. Ms. Sterling's actions reveal motive. We have evidence of embezzlement from Catherine Brennan's Memorial Foundation. Ms. Sterling has been stealing from children's therapy programs while claiming concern for Sophie's welfare. The courtroom went silent. Vanessa's face drained of color. Judge Santos's expression hardened. Present everything. I want the full truth. Now, Judge Santos looked at Isabel. Ms. Moreno, please present your testimony. Isabel stood. Her hands were steady now. She'd survived worse than this. Budget cuts, career death, invisible poverty. This was just another room where she'd prove her worth. Your Honor, on October 17th, I witnessed a 7-year-old child experiencing acute trauma response at Riverside Grill. Hyperventilation, uncontrollable crying, physical trembling. These are clinical signs of grief-related panic, not behavioral issues. Her voice was calm, clinical, devastating. I approached using music, therapy protocols I was trained for, bilateral stimulation, rhythm-matching breathing techniques, culturally appropriate comfort through Spanish language, which the child responded to immediately. Within 5 minutes, Sophie Brennan's distress decreased significantly. Isabel placed the USB drive on the table. This contains recordings from my grandmother. Time-stamped, proving the lullaby Duerme Negrito is a traditional Spanish song passed through generations. Not coaching, not manipulation, cultural heritage. Carla stood. Your Honor, I have unedited security footage. She handed her phone to the bailiff. Shows the entire interaction. Ms. Moreno kneeling at the child's level, speaking gently. No aggression, only compassion. The video played on the courtroom screen. Everyone watched. Isabel's gentle approach. Sophie's crying softening. The tender moment when the child grabbed Isabel's hand. A woman stood from the gallery. Your Honor, may I speak? Judge Santos nodded. My name is Patricia Chin. Isabel Moreno was my son's music therapist 4 years ago during his leukemia treatment. She visited him daily during chemotherapy, sang to him, made him playlists, taught him to play guitar when he was strong enough. He's in remission now, thriving, because of her. Another voice, another parent, another testimony. 5 families, 10, all speaking up, all validating Isabel's competence, her character, her impact. Vanessa stood abruptly. This is irrelevant. She's an unemployed waitress with an agenda. She wants money, access. She's manipulating a vulnerable child and a grieving father. I never asked for money, Isabel said quietly. I only wanted Sophie to stop hurting. The courtroom doors opened. Richard walked in, but he wasn't alone. 3 men in dark suits flanked him, FBI badges visible. Behind them, forensic accountants carried boxes of documents. The room went silent. Richard's voice was steel. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption, but this guardianship hearing needs to be postponed. Ms. Sterling is under federal investigation for embezzling $1.4 million from the Catherine Brennan Memorial Foundation, money my wife established before her death for pediatric music therapy programs. Vanessa's face drained of color. That's a lie. It's documented. Richard nodded to the FBI agents. They stepped forward. Shell companies, offshore accounts, email trails discussing eliminating therapy programs to increase distributions. All trace back to you. This is ridiculous. The foundation was supposed to fund children's grief counseling. Richard continued. His voice shook with fury. My wife's final wish, her legacy, and you stole it, while pretending to care about Sophie's well-being. while trying to destroy the woman who actually helped my daughter. An FBI agent stepped forward. Vanessa Sterling, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. The forensic accountant opened the first box, pulled out documents, spreadsheets, bank statements. Your Honor, we have comprehensive financial records spanning 3 years. He laid them on the table, numbers highlighted, transactions traced. Ms. Sterling created a shell company called Sterling Consulting Services in the Cayman Islands. The Catherine Brennan Memorial Foundation paid this company $417,000 for administrative services that were never rendered. Another document, email correspondence between Ms. Sterling and offshore banking representatives. Quote, redirect remaining therapy allocations to distribution account. Board members won't notice if we phase programs slowly. A third stack of papers. Testimony from legitimate foundation board members. They were systematically excluded from meetings. Financial reports were falsified. Ms. Sterling controlled all accounts with sole signature authority, against the foundation's bylaws. The accountant's voice was flat, professional. The exact amount embezzled, $1,427,392.18. That's the precise sum Catherine Brennan allocated for children's grief programs before her death. Every dollar redirected to Ms. Sterling's personal accounts. Third-party verification came next. Foundation board members, Catherine's lawyer, the hospital administrator who'd worked with Catherine to establish the programs. All corroborating, all confirming theft. Vanessa's hands shook. Her lawyer whispered urgently. She pushed him away. This is a setup. Richard is manipulating evidence because I challenged his custody. We have your signatures, the FBI agent said. Your emails, your bank access logs, your purchase history using stolen funds. He held up a photograph. Vanessa at a charity gala, wearing an expensive pearl necklace, purchased for $63,000 using foundation credit card, categorized as event expenses. But the foundation didn't host events. You did, for your personal social calendar. The evidence kept coming. Receipts, transactions, lies documented. 3 years of systematic theft. Children's programs eliminated. Therapists' positions cut. Also, Vanessa could fund her lifestyle. The pearl necklace around Vanessa's neck caught the courtroom lights. Beautiful, expensive, purchased with money meant for traumatized children. The FBI agent stepped forward with handcuffs. Vanessa Sterling, you have the right to remain silent. Vanessa's facade finally cracked. Her perfect composure shattered. I was Catherine's best friend. I loved Sophie. This was supposed to be mine. It was never yours, Richard said quietly. It belonged to children who needed help. Children like Sophie. And you stole from them. The handcuffs clicked. Cold metal replacing pearls. Justice replacing theft. Judge Santos watched the arrest. Her expression was unreadable. When the FBI agents escorted Vanessa out, she turned to Richard. Mr. Brennan, do you still wish to proceed with this hearing? Yes, Your Honor. Not to defend against Ms. Sterling's petition. That's clearly baseless. But to establish something official. Richard looked at Isabel. I want the court to recognize Isabel Moreno as Sophie's official therapeutic support, with full legal authority to provide care. Isabel's breath caught. Ms. Moreno, Judge Santos said, approach the bench. Isabel walked forward, stood before the judge, waiting. I presided over family court for 22 years, Judge Santos said. I've seen every manipulation, every lie, every person claiming to care about children while serving themselves. You're not one of them. Isabel's throat closed. Your credentials are validated. Your character is confirmed. Your impact on this child is documented. Judge Santos looked at Richard. Mr. Brennan, what exactly are you offering? Richard stood, crossed to Isabel, pulled papers from his briefcase. Director of Music Therapy for the Catherine Brennan Memorial Foundation. Rebuilding my wife's vision. Funding the programs Vanessa destroyed. Salary, benefits, housing stipend for her grandmother's memory care. Everything she needs to do the work she was meant to do. Isabel Moreno has given my daughter what I couldn't, Richard said to the court. Connection to her mother's memory. Therapeutic care I was too proud to seek. unconditional compassion I was too blind to recognize. My wife chose her during hospice. Sophie chose her during grief. I'm choosing her now. Isabel looked at the contract. Salary: $97,000 annually. Benefits: comprehensive health care. Housing stipend: $5,000 monthly. Enough to move her abuela into the memory care suite she needed. I don't need vindication, Your Honor, Isabel said quietly. I need Sophie to heal, and I need my abuela to have safe care. If I can serve both, I'll accept any help offered. Her hands shook as she signed. Judge Santos made her rulings official. Full foundation funds will be recovered and redirected to original pediatric music therapy programs. Ms. Moreno's therapy license is confirmed as valid, never revoked, only her position eliminated during budget cuts. The hospital board will provide formal written apology for departmental closure that eliminated essential services. She looked at the court reporter. Let the record show. Vanessa Sterling faces federal charges. 7-year federal prison sentence recommended for wire fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction. $3.2 million in fines and restitution. Permanent restraining order barring all contact with Sophie Brennan. Richard's custody remained intact. Isabel designated as Sophie's official therapeutic support. Legal, protected, recognized. This court finds that Ms. Moreno acted with professional competence and humanitarian compassion. Judge Santos concluded. She is hereby validated in all capacities. Hearing adjourned. The gavel fell. Justice delivered. Truth recognized. Healing authorized. If this story of healing and second chances moved you, subscribe now. We share stories every week about ordinary people whose compassion changes everything. Isabel's office overlooked the Colorado River. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Natural light. Walls covered with children's artwork. The Catherine Brennan Memorial Foundation occupied the building's top floor. Below, the city moved. The river flowed. And across the water, Riverside Grill served Friday evening customers. She had lunched there monthly with Carla. They sat at the same bar where Isabel used to work, where everything changed, where little girls crying led to transformation. How's your abuela? Carla asked over coffee. Thriving. Isabel smiled. The memory care suite has a music room. I visit every day after work. We sing the old lullabies. Some days she remembers my name. Some days she doesn't. But the songs always reach her. Her grandmother had the care she needed. 24-hour supervision. Spanish-speaking staff. Music therapy integrated into daily routine. Safe. Comfortable. Loved. And Sophie? Therapy twice weekly. She and Richard come together now. Isabel's expression softened. They're learning Spanish. His pronunciation is terrible. Sophie corrects him with so much patience. It's beautiful to watch. Richard had committed fully, hired tutors, studied Catherine's journals, learned every song his wife used to sing, reclaimed the parts of her he'd never known. Better late than never. The Isabel Moreno Scholarship Program had funded 17 displaced therapists. Budget cuts had destroyed careers across Austin. Now those professionals could rebuild, return to the work they loved, help children who needed them. Carla's daughter was student number 3, Isabel said. Carla laughed. She graduates in May, already has job offers, says she wants to work with trauma survivors, like her mom's stubborn friend who wouldn't stay quiet. Through the window, Isabel watched the river. The same water that had reflected storm clouds 6 months ago now caught afternoon sun. The same city that had tried to erase her now displayed her foundation's billboard on 3 major highways. Catherine Brennan's vision lived, expanded, touched more children than she'd ever imagined. Isabel made sure of that. Every day, every session, every song. The envelope sat on Isabel's desk, postmarked from Guadalajara. Return address she hadn't seen in 12 years. Her mother's handwriting. Isabel kept it unopened for weeks. Some conversations required more courage than courtrooms, more strength than survival. Some wounds were older, deeper, more complicated than professional vindication could heal. Sophie asked about it every session. Maybe your mommy sings too. Maybe she's been trying to find you. Maybe, Isabel always said. But today felt different. 6 months of healing. 6 months of watching Richard reclaim his relationship with Sophie. 6 months of understanding that lost time could be recovered. If you were brave enough to try. Isabel's finger traced the envelope seal. The paper was thin, fragile, like the connection it represented. Maybe next week, or maybe today. She picked up her grandmother's music box. Open it. The melody played. Songs heal hearts, even the ones broken by mothers who left, even the ones fractured by 12 years of silence. Isabel opened the envelope. A new foundation in turn knocked on Isabel's door. Young, nervous. I'm so sorry, Ms. Moreno. I messed up the session schedule. Double booked 2 families. I don't know how I... Stop. Isabel's voice was gentle. Did anyone get hurt? No, but... Did you fix it? Yes. I rescheduled 1 family. But I feel terrible. Mistakes mean you're trying, Isabel said. The same words Carla had used. The same grace she'd received. Perfection means you're hiding. Here we try. The intern's shoulders relaxed. Carla had been right. Powerful men don't respect credentials. They respect human beings who show them what power actually means. Not control, connection, not perfection, compassion, not wealth. Wisdom passed down through generations of women who survived by helping each other rise. Rain fell on the Colorado River. Isabel stood at her office window, watching a young server hail a cab outside Riverside Grill. She'd been there. She'd survived. And she'd make sure every song reached the child who needed it. Thank you for witnessing Isabel's journey. Subscribe for stories of compassion, courage, and second chances every week.